Hi, it's Sherri from A Quilting Life, and today I'm here to talk all things managing your fabric stash. Now, the other day I did a video on how to build a fabric stash, and today's video is just a little bit different. We're going to talk about how you manage it, how you keep track of it, and how you even purge, sort, and store it. So let's get going. Some good advice that I've followed is that you should go through your fabric stash once a year or sooner if you start to get piles accumulating everywhere. And the person who said that was actually Becky Goldsmith. I heard her give a lecture one time, and she mentioned having piles of fabric on the floor. But I try not to wait that long. If I start getting some fabric stacked up here and there, I'll do a quick sort. You can see I have these boxes in front of me lined up, and I also have them all labeled. I have some of the labels turned back towards me, but labeling is super important so that you know what you have in the box. And I have certain things that I always cut my pieces into when I'm finished with a project. And one of those is this first one I pulled up, which is squares and half square triangles. And I just keep extra squares of fabric from projects, extra half square triangles. Some of them I haven't even trimmed to size yet. So you can see I just have all sorts of pieces in here. So if I need a square or a half square triangle, I know that I can come to this bin. Another bin that I routinely store scraps into is extra 2.5-inch strips. And this bin is extra 2.5-inch strips from a whole variety of our collections. That way when I go to make a scrap quilt, I can just pull this bin and I can mix some of the older pieces along with what I might be using now and get a really great mix in a scrap quilt. But these 2.5-inch strips are a great size to save. Another size that I save is 5-inch strips by width of fabric. And so again, this bin is just all different 5-inch strips from newer collections, older collections. This one's actually from our second collection. And I just keep them all together so that if I ever need to do a scrap quilt or a charm square quilt, I've got these 5-inch strips that I can cut from right away. This one I was noticing actually is a backup box. I think it has 5-inch squares that I'm saving, and then it also has 2.5-inch squares and more half square triangles that are already trimmed. So another great size of scraps to store. And then this final one, I just call it miscellaneous small strips. And some of them are 1.5 wide, some of them are 2 inches wide. I've even got some bigger pieces in here that weren't quite 5 inches, so I couldn't put them in that 5-inch bin. But I keep these too, and these are the main categories of scraps that I keep. Now, as far as how to go about managing, I just had a couple of tips that I wanted to give you as well. Sort your pre-cuts first when you're going through your stash. Look through your fat quarter bundles, your jelly rolls, your layer cakes, your honey buns, your fat eighth bundles. See if there's any of those that you're not going to use that you could donate for someone that does charity sewing or for someone who just might have a hard time getting fabric. Go through the pre-cuts first. Those take up space, and after you go through those, I like to go through my larger cuts of fabric next, one yard cuts or larger. See if I still want to keep those. And then after that, I will go through project leftovers and cut them into these different sizes. And the labels are key. If you don't have your box labeled, you're not going to know what's in it and you're not going to be able to use it. But this is just a little bit of how I store my fabric stash and how I update it and maintain it on a regular basis. I hope you've enjoyed this little discussion about managing your fabric stash. It's something I really believe in and love to talk about. I feel like if you can kind of organize your things so that you can use them again, you're more likely to use your scraps and keep them from building up. I do have a couple blog posts on this topic too that I'll link in the description below. And then the plastic boxes that I used are just the plastic shoe boxes from Container Store. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, and thanks so much for stopping by.